what's so nice about being here, and I couldn't wait to get on this platform, is to discuss with you. Today is a perfect day for us to change our perception, to connect and influence the subconscious. And thank you, Joe, for leading the way on that. And to create harmony in our life. Isn't that cool? And we're going to do it today. Isn't that wonderful? How many of you feel that on a scale of 1 to 10, that this is an important situation, that it's important to us in the creation of a wonderful life experience? How many of you feel that on a scale of 1 to 10, shout out, what number do you think it is? 10. Beautiful. I want to at this time thank our leader for coming up with these themes. Thank you. And offer this talk to you, Sandy. God bless you. Thank you. Let's give her a clap. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what my comment is, it's way beyond that. It's 15 or 20. It's the one part of our life that we can enhance our life and really deal with what's going on out there. It is a spiritual tool that was given to every one of us when we entered this plane of existence. And what was the tool for? It's to help us determine how we're going to process this human life. But it also does one other thing. We're talking about harmony. It will show us and answer the question, how do I manifest or how do I create or develop harmony in my life when I'm experiencing this drama of humanity and looking at all the different changes and conditions that are occurring. Just this last week, Stella and I spent some time in Fresno just helping out and checking with people who are in the hospital, and one person who's in hospice who we had to bid goodbye to. How do we create harmony when everything's changing? The environment is changing on a daily basis. The way things are happening in the universe as far as tornadoes. There's been, 51 tornadoes coming through the center of our United States, creating havoc throughout the Midwest, etc. And then they're predicting that it could go as far as Idaho. How do we create harmony when these people are suffering and their houses break down? How do I create harmony when every day something changes, attitudes change? And the reality of today is that we need to kind of awaken to how do I do that? Because just saying the words, we're going to change our subconscious mind, our perception. We're going to change our perception. We're going to actually influence our subconscious mind. We're always doing that. But how do I create harmony when we're involved with this drama of life? So what's kind of neat is I took all three of these themes, which I think is the most precious, awesome thing, and I consider on a scale of 1 to 10 way beyond that, 15 or 20. Because if we want to enhance it and change our life experience, this is what we need to do, is pay attention to it. But what I did, I decided to make one sentence, and then it'll lead us into this talk today. And that sentence says, changing my consciousness influences my subconscious, creating harmony in my life. That's it. And that's what this month's going to be all about. How do I do that? Most of us, when we look at perceptions, my gosh, we look at things based on our past experiences. We look at things based on how I was treated by my mother. How was I treated at school? And just for Angela, for example, just give you an example. Look at that painting. That was painted by our artist in place. It's Jane Geyer. When she created that idea, I looked at it from a distance and I was amazed. I said, thank God she really did us a favor by doing that. It's wonderful. But then when I took and people would look at it and say, my gosh, maybe it's upside down. We should turn it this way because it's really a stream. They didn't really know. So how we perceive just that painting has to do with our own backgrounds. When I looked at it, I got up close to it, I realized, my gosh, this is a waterfall, and I'm up here in this mountain looking down, and all of a sudden I had a different feeling about that painting. Why? Angelo, why do you feel differently about that painting? Well, that painting represents something in my life, and it's part of my psyche. And this was 25 years ago. I'm a pilot. But the problem is, and during those times I love flying airplanes, but it's something weird about Angelo. I'm afraid of heights. I don't like to climb a ladder, but I can be 36,000 feet in the air. And when I look at that planet, my God, I get kind of shaky. So everything we experience in this life form is based on our background, our belief system, the churches we used to go to. And so how do I create harmony when I'm looking at everything and judging everything based on my experiences? So that's what this is all about. What's kind of cool about this is that I tapped into Henry David Thoreau. Anybody know about Henry David Thoreau? He's an American philosopher. And he used to kind of talk about these kinds of things. And he made a statement that really leads us into this theme. And he said this, and it has to do with our relationship with this physical world. The world is but a canvas to our imagination. Think about that. The world is but a canvas to our imagination. And he said that in 1854. It's not new. But he opened up what I don't like to call our belief system new thought necessarily, I do all the time, or a science of mind. It's the science of mystery. It's a science of miracles, That's what this is. And he opened the door for us back in 1854. And what he said is that we create through our imagination what we're experiencing. Isn't that cool? That's pretty good. But then he wasn't the only one. Then came a guy named Einstein. How many of you know about Einstein? Yeah, okay. Einstein started talking about exactly what Thoreau said. Because what Thoreau said was that we're much beyond, we're much more extraordinary than flesh and bones. And individuals who are under the domain of what's happening to them, that they're under the control of this physical world. And what he said was that we are energetic charges, that we have energy, we're an energetic charge that communicates with a field of energy that's connected to everything. Now, you know, the naysayers, this is all foo-foo stuff. No, whatever, right? We can show it through the dynamic stories that happens, and we'll talk about a couple of them in this talk. Well, Einstein came through and was talking about the field as well. And Einstein said that there's only one reality, and that reality is the field. So he was talking about this field, this energy field. My gosh. And then along comes a gal named Lynn McTaggart. And she's doing research. She's a journalist. So she didn't know a whole lot about this, but she did her research. And her research showed that, and it was because she was doing research on the field itself, to write the book, The Field. How many of you read the book, The Field? Read it, it's kind of cool. But anyway, to write the book on the field. And she, again, came out and made that statement that the human species is very extraordinary, and the human species has the power to determine through their imagination what's happening in the world before them. Now, naysayers may not think that that's correct, but it can be proven through thousands and thousands of stories. Now, one of the things that we here at PLC, and those of us who are ministers, and those of you who are practitioners, you may not have the paperwork that says you are, but you're practitioners, because you talk to your friends and your relatives, and you show them what the dynamics are of this science of the miraculous, science of miracles, new thought. One of the things we need to really deal with this month, and when we review all this, is what's in the human consciousness that's really bogging us down. And it's a false perception that permeates this universe. And it permeates what's happening here in America. And what that false perception is that if something happens in the past, it will continue to happen now and in the future. That whatever's happened in the past, and that's the dialogue that we need to listen to and be aware of, because we're basing everything on our perceptions that will create our life experience, and all of a sudden we have this dominating false perception that if something happened to me 25, 30, 40 years ago, or whatever, it'll continue to happen, and it'll happen in the future. We need to deal with that. And it's a tough one. Well, anyway, we have some people who came on and said, that's nonsense. Principle cannot be bound by precedent. That came through our belief system. Principle cannot be bound by... What is principle? Principle is that field. It's that life force. And you can call it God if you so desire. That God cannot be limited by precedent. Just because something's happened in the past doesn't mean it has to continue to happen today. We can change things. These masters, these writers are showing us that this is a fact. That we can change what's going on. And so a guy named Neville, I don't know how many of you have heard about Neville. Read these guys, they're awesome. He's a mystic, kind of a current mystic. Anyway, Neville came through and he said, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I've been mispronouncing his name all this time. Go ahead.
Well, I'm from Italy, so who knows? Maybe it's Italian. This gal said that. But anyway, Neville, he comes through and he wrote about this, the proof of it. And what happened was it's about a fairly young individual. He was in his 30s. He had a wonderful family. People loved him. He was a really good guy. But all of a sudden, he started feeling kind of sick. His energy was going downhill. He said, what's happening to me? So they take him to the doctor. And then they put him in the hospital and they started checking him out. And then the diagnosis came. You see, when we look at the medical field, these angels that take care of us, and I love them, particularly when I need them, but I love these nurses and doctors. It's in their face so much as suffering and this turmoil and all this stuff that they have history, and they depend on history. And I've always been told that your prognosis, if you believe it, will kill you. But they have history and they mean well. So the doctors checked this guy out and he said, you've got a very serious heart condition that's fatal. You're not going to make it. So they did whatever they had to do and they sent him home. And anyway, his wife was really concerned. He's going downhill fast and he's slipping. So she decided, I'm going to call in the mystic or somebody that's a spiritual leader to find out, get an advice. So she heard about Neville. So she calls him in. And so this is his story of what happened. And so he came in and he was shot. Here's a man in a hospital bed in the living room, and he's like this. He's going downhill fast. He's literally dying. And he doesn't have the energy to even talk. And he definitely can't walk. And he's like skin and bones. He was going downhill fast. So Neville comes in, and by the time Neville got there, it was, gosh, this guy's in bad shape. And so Neville said, I'm going to talk to you about my own belief system and tell you how that our emotions can affect what's going on here. And he said, so if you can hear me or understand what I'm saying, blink your eyes. And then he went on to say that we have the power to change things. That all we have to do, if we have a problem, the main thing that he believes is that if you have a problem, you need to change your attitude, number one. And then you have to change your perception of what you're thinking about. And so he started, and the guy was blinking his eye, and honestly, I was starting to smile. And then he says, what I want you to do, you're lying here, you have nothing else to do, so you might as well start thinking about it. Stop putting in mind, in your imagination, what you'd like to be. I want you to see yourself playing with your children, running laps around the track, doing all the things that energy takes to be that person that you are. And we want you to put in mind that. And you need to become that in your mind. It has to become who you want to be. And you need to believe in it and focus on it, and you're lying here, and that's all you have to do right now anyway, so you might as well do it and take it seriously. And he says, one last thing, you need to put in mind, and you need to see the doctor, you're going back to the doctor to show him what's happening, and have the doctor be saying the words that, this has got to be a miracle. And he's checking his records, and he's looking at all the data, and he says, this has got to be a miracle. You need to put that in mind and know that it's happening. And the guy did, and then the valve left. Well, a few months later, he gets a letter from this guy. And the guy said, thank you for helping me. He said, I'm playing with my kids. I'm all well and good, and I want to thank you. Let's clap for this guy. It's kind of cool. Is that foo-foo? Is this just a delusion of grandeur? It's an actual example of what can happen when we accept the fact that we're not only skin and bones, but we're something better than that. We are an energy source. We are an energy source, charge. And that we communicate through our emotions, through our feelings. We communicate to all there is, to the field. Call it God, call it whatever you want. To a field that responds to us because it's connected to everything. You see, that's what this month's all about. It's for us to transcend the nonsense that we're just skin and bones. And that we're under the domain of things that are happening. There are a lot of tornadoes in our life, I can tell you that. And there's a lot of changes. Those tornadoes are the change in relationships, the change in the emotions, the change in the environment, the change in the country. We go on and on. But what it tells us is that we can create harmony in our life. And all we have to do is take our responsibility for who and what we are. We are connected to all there is through this energy source. And I'll be glad anybody can come to my office and we'll talk about theta healing. And we'll talk about all these chakras that we have and how we ruminate this vibration. But we need to accept that fact. Now I was thinking, well, what do I need to do to create harmony? I mean, okay, Angela, this all sounds good. These stories are really awesome. It's really neat. But when I'm up against it, when I'm in the trenches there, and I'm really bogged down by this, what do I need to do? And the answer is, I need to not push away the fact that I'm emotionally disturbed. I need not to call home about it. I need not to focus on it, because that just makes it stronger. All I need to do is what my friend talked about today. But I need to realize that I'm way beyond that. That there's an energy source that I am. And what I did, as Stella and I came back, we were a little down. You know, even if you're a minister, you get down. Coming back, something special happened. I had to, and we do it every month. In fact, our dear friend, she's a mentor of this guy. The guy who's in charge of our Emerson Global, and his office is called the Positive Living Center in London. That very next day, after I was super down, I communicated with him. And, I don't have my cell phone with me. Anyway, I had my cell phone. And I had the cell phone, and I connected with him. And here's a cell phone. I'm talking to a guy in London. I can see his office. We're so close that I can see him blink his eyes, and I can see his mannerism, and we're talking to each other on this phone. And you say, Angela, what's the big deal about that? The big deal of that is that this energy that we have, this species that we call the human species, can create and conceive through their imagination things that are not present to the senses at the time. You know, a few years ago, this was Sky Wars. I mean, how would you be able to talk to somebody who's 5,180 miles away, have him present in your office, talking to him on this device that's smaller than whatever, a pack of cigarettes or whatever? What is possible? So when you start taking a look at that and realizing, and there's so many ideas about that. I could go on. That's a whole seminar of how this human species has the ability to create things that are not present at the moment to the senses. When Jesus was alive, aerodynamics existed. There could have been an airplane way back when. But we weren't at the conscious awareness yet of the aerodynamics that can help us figure out how to fly an airplane. We could have done it then, but we weren't at that place of evolution where we can find out things like that and create it. So it's all a matter of evolution of evolving. I'm going to close with another story, and then we'll go from there, because if we really want to accept who we are, that we're in the science of the miraculous, the science of miracles, and we need to start using it in our daily life, and not accept the fact that whatever's happening to us is taking control over us. That's nonsense. And so this story has to do with a mom, and actually the kid's name is Michael. Michael and his sister and his mom, they're driving through the desert, heading towards Indiana. All of a sudden the car breaks down. Well, the mom is a unity person. She knows this stuff. And Michael said, this is nonsense. We're 50 miles away from the nearest town. Who's going to help us? The mom said, help is available right here and right now. Okay? See how we use this. And what I want you to do, kids, is we're going to pray. But we're not praying to something. Because that's duality. That something is there outside of us, and we're here, and we're pleading and no, that's not prayer. That's pleading. We're going to pray from something. We're going to pray from the idea that when we put this in mind, that help is here, it will be here. Do we understand each other? And of course, Mike was one of these teenagers, and he thought, oh, it sounds like nonsense. Yes, we'll do it. So they do it. Well, a few hours later, this blue Toyota shows up. Two elderly people were in the truck, and they get out. And the elderly woman says, oh, through our meditation, we're on another road, through our meditation and our connection with all that there is. She said, we heard that you folks need some help. And my husband just happens to be a mechanic, so we got it made. And so he raises the hood and he checks everything out. And he says, you've got a dead battery. That's a piece of cake. All we have to do is take it to this town that's 50 miles away and get the battery charged, and you're on your way. He said, we can do that. And the elderly lady said, gave her a sack, and she said, we've got some sandwiches and some water for you folks as you're waiting, because it's going to be a while. So they did that. And 3 hours later, they come back. They come back. And the woman put her hand on the cheek of the mom, and she said, Lynn, you're going to be okay now. And then she looks at the two kids and says, and Michael and Janet, you take care of your mom, because she's going to be fine, and you're going to have a good trip to Indiana. Wow. So Michael said, my gosh, how's that possible? We didn't tell her our names, and we didn't tell them that we were going to Indiana. How do they know? So you see, we need to, when we look at this month, we need to step beyond the conditioned mind that's always saying, nah, this is nonsense, this is not. No, we need to step beyond that. And we need to realize that there's something out there that's more special and more powerful than anything that's happening to us. That we call it the field, call it God, call it whatever we want. But we don't pray to it, and we don't beg for anything. We just go to that divine energy identification with it, and we say, I'm ready to receive the greater good that's always available to me. And say with me loud and clear, and so it is. We're done.